Hello, my name is Lavonna Moore. I work for the Okefenokee Regional Library System. I wanted to do a project for Indigenous Day that includes the art and culture. And it came to me Dreamcatchers. Let's get started. Depending on which kit you have, you probably have either some lace, some furry yarn, some straight yarn, some string, a dolly, a stick of glue stick, hot glue stick, embellishments. That includes feather, gems, and beads, and a hoop. All right, let's get started. All right, we're gonna start with the straight yarn, the little yarn in a ball, and we're gonna knot this yarn around our wing twice and move the knot to the bent in our ring where the ring joins, and we're just gonna wrap it around a little bit. I like to go from inside to outside. If you're having trouble keeping the knot in one place, I suggest you get some glue. It could be any kind of glue, and put a little dab where you place your knot and let that dry with the knot on top of the glue, and the knot will not move after it's dried. Now we're going to continue to wrap our yarn around our middle hoop all the way over. Now for those, you need the yarn tight. Now to get it tight, you just wrap it around a little bit and pull it tight. Sometimes you can twist the yarn to tighten up the yarn, just like you do with a screwdriver or a screw. Just twist it and tighten it. Now, if your hands start hurting, here's a simple tip. Once you get to a point where you need for the yarn not to move, you can just dab a little glue and then it'll stay. Alright, we're at the end of our ring, and now we're just going to tie it off with the end tails of the knot we left before. Just do a simple double knot. Now with covering the ring, you can stop here, but I like to add more details to my ring. So I'm going to go over loosely with the yarn again, just to get my ring details. Now, at this point, you can use a different color yarn, but since I have white on hand and I'm using white, that's what I'm going to use. Usually I use a different color, but all in the project. So I'm going to loosely wrap it twice so it looks like there's crisscross going on with my ring. As for texture, and we're going to just tie it off once again. Now we're going to start webbing our hoop. You have your string pack. I advise that you take a hairpin or a bobby pin and add some string to that, just like I did here. Alright, we're going to start with the basic starting line for all dream catchers. Just simply tie a knot at the bottom of your ring. I'm keeping all my knots together so I can hide them. later. So we're going to do a basic first row stringing of our web. So just pull it taut. You're going to go under the ring, around the ring, and through. And then pull tight. I'm keeping my web spaces 1 inch apart. So that's 1 inch. So I measure another inch. Go under, around, and through. Let's do this one more time. Pull taut, under, around, and through. We're going to do this until we get to the end of our ring. Okay, we're at our next to the last web space. So we're going to make that inch space, and we're going to make our last inch space right here and pull it tight. Now for those who are making the dolly Dreamcatcher, just place your dolly inside just to measure out the way you want the dolly to be placed. And then you're going to either count the spaces of your dollies, the points of your dollies, and match it up, or you're just gonna eyeball it. For me, I eyeball it. The main point of the dolly is to pull it tight. It has to be stretchable. So now we're gonna work on our second row. And basically to start your second row, you're gonna go into the first inch space from your first row, and you're gonna go in and out. In from the top, out from the bottom. In from the top, out from the bottom. This is the simplest web pattern that you can find. There are more complicated ones, but we're not doing that. We're just going to do the simplest one, and that's in and out. In and out. Okay, we're at the beginning of our web. Once again, as you can see, the knots. Now, if you pull it tight, you can see the web forming. But this is the time we put in our dolly. So we're going to go into our dolly, out our dolly, into our web space, the first triangle, and out. In the dolly, out the dolly, in the web space, out the web space. In the dolly, out the dolly, in the web space, out the web space. Basics webbing for a simple dream catcher. You're going to do this simple pattern all the way around your ring with your dolly, and the dolly needs to be tight. I mean, it's easy to unravel the ring if you make a mistake, but the dolly must be tight, just like this. As you can see, my dolly is tight. It is laying flat. It is stretched along the ring from the inside to the outside. The webbing around the ring looks good. At this point, you can start adding your embellishment and your tassels. Okay, we're going to start over again from our second row. For those who do not want to use the dolly. For those who don't want to use the dolly, just use the basic pattern, the in and out, continuously around the ring. If you need to know how far your webbing has come, just gently pull it tight and you can actually see the pattern in the webbing. Now, right here, I kind of skipped a space, and that's why I have this big gap in my webbing, but that's okay. It gives my Dreamcatcher personality, I believe, and I can always cover up a mistake with embellishment, so that is not a problem. But what will become a problem as you get closer to the center, the webbing space will become harder to see. So sometimes you may need to pull the webbing apart just to see where your spaces are at. Now, as you just saw, I ran out of thread. So I got some new thread, tied it up to the old thread that was already using in my webbing, and I didn't cut off my strings because I'm going to show you how I use those strings just to hide them and decorate them later. Alright, so now we're going to finish our webbing off. Basically the same pattern, in and out into space. As you can see, I'm pulling my webbing apart just to see where my spaces are at. Okay, I've done a couple of rows so far, and now I'm going to pull my string taut so I can see how far I got to go for this webbing. Remember, as you get closer to the center, it's going to be hard to find the web spaces, and it may look like you're not getting anywhere, but if you pull it tight, you can see it enclosing just like that. So as you can see, I just got a few more rows to go before my web is enclosed to the point where I want it. Alright, for me, I think this would be all the webbing I'm going to do for this Dreamcatcher. Usually I do it until it's closed, but right now I just want to leave that open just in case I want to add some gems to the middle of it. So we're going to tie off, pull it tight, and then while you're holding it tight, you're going to tie off your string, just a simple knot. Just go in, loop, and knot. In, loop, through, and knot. And pull tight. That's it. That's all you have to do. You may need to do a second one, but that's it. Okay, now that your webbing is done, you need to find which is the good side of your Dreamcatcher, and then on the back side of your Dreamcatcher, you're going to start placing your tassel. So figure out where you want your tassels at before you tie or glue anything down. Okay, so I chose this side to be the back of my Dreamcatcher, and I just used a simple overlay knot, and then I'm going to just glue in the rest of the tassel pieces. Now I'm about to lay in the fur thread. Now you must be careful of what's your front of your Dreamcatcher and what's the back of the Dreamcatcher, because this thread has a front and back to it. Okay, now I'm just gonna go through my tassels and clean up any flyaways or cut any flyaways off or glue any flyaways down so it won't appear from the back of the Dreamcatcher. Okay, now I'm just going to flip over my Dreamcatcher to the good side, and now we're just going to add some embellishments. Some feathers, some jewels, some beads, sticks, jewelry. Anything you want in your Dreamcatcher is up to you. You need to be careful when using a hot glue gun on synthetic yarn because it will melt. Just a heads up. And now I have added my feathers. I'm adding my beads now. And I'm adding to the beads where I added more thread. I had that tie away, and this is what I'm going to use it for. So basically, I'm threading the beads on the leftover string. Now at the tying it, I'm going to glue the knot so it won't come loose because that's pretty tight knot. And then I'm just going to glue my beads into place or have it into a shape that I think would work well for this dream catcher. All right, I'm at the point where I'm going to add some jewels. I cannot express this enough that if you're not very good working with a hot glue gun, switch to Mod Podge or Super Glue or Elmer's glue. Because if you're using a hot glue gun to glue these gems on, there's a chance that you will get burnt. I got burnt. I like to put gems on my dream catchers because the gems can hide imperfections or mistakes and still make it look like I did that on purpose. So here's our dream catcher. All we need to deal with now is the uneven tassels. I'm going to cut my tassels off at an angle just to give it some kind of design. You can cut it off straight or flush, but I like a little design in my tassels. And then we're going to do a hanging loop. So basically just make a loop and a string and then do an overknot to tie it up where you can hang it on the wall, hang it anywhere you want. And there's our dream catcher. Thank you.